in the front row there. Yep.
Okay, thanks for your talk. I don't think it's particularly productive to discuss what the substantive truth of, for instance, any one religion is, because obviously we can get into sort of hermeneutic debates and endlessly debate it.
Can you give it some welly?
Yeah. Stand up and slow down.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm not particularly interested in debating the substantive content of a religious faith, Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, but someone who actually grew up in Iran, has experienced theocratic dictatorship and the yoke of sort of the particular curse of the religious state. I could say that I don't really need to get into sort of a long-winded debate to decide which sort of state I would prefer to live under. It's more of a statement, to be honest. We don't really, just looking at the results of that state and sort of the horror it's reaped on that country, I don't think we need to sort of, to look any further to the results of, living under sort of religious tyranny.
Well, good for you.
Well, let me briefly turn that...
Well said.
Thank you. Zak Mason from Miami, Florida. In particular, this question is for Chris. One of the big problems in the 21st century for the American people is that issue of fear. Now, when you're sitting at a table, I believe in God, all right? And there are many people who are atheists who are my friends. I forget the pun, can break bread with them. But the issue here today is why, if you're going to make policy in the Middle East, one of the biggest components of that are religious leaders. And yet, here today, you are saying, let's use these belligerent words. Let's use cold and capricious words and say, this is the way it has to be written. How do you respond on that?
I don't understand a blind word you're saying.
Clarify?
Well, neither does the president. He supports the Middle East policy, so don't feel bad.
Fair enough. Well,
Seemed like a waste of a question to me. Are you saying that because there are so many religious people, one should not speak what one feels about religion?
There are people who believe in God, myself included.
Yes,
and you were saying that those people are in this fringe group. We don't know what's going on. So if you're going to do that, what evidence, what proof are you bringing to the table? In the case of these words, the words you use, it's just fear. It's a fear component. That's not what the American people need right now. And I think Reverend Sharpman would agree with me on this.
Well,
you're not claiming your book is therapeutic.
I'm sorry, your question is still gibberish. I'm terribly sorry.
Let's move on. Next question, sir. Yes.
Hi there, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi there. My question for you is this. As a scientist, Professor Dawkins, I'd like to ask you, well, basically, I agree with you. Science does explain the world better than religion, for sure. But what science and religion, and I think particularly monotheism in that department especially, have in common is they're both based on and use the process of thought and conceptuality. And my question is, what is the understanding, for want of a better word, that we used to seek through religion, and many now do so through science, is actually an experience and not an idea or a concept?
I don't know what that means. An experience and not an idea or a concept. Can you just explain a little more briefly, David Whitten?
Sorry?
Can you just explain that a little bit more, expand on that a little bit more?
Professor, I assume you'd agree that religion and science, well, science is looking for some kind of understanding or explanation of the world. But maybe the understanding or reason or sense or something that we're looking for is not an idea or a thought, it's actually an experience.
Well, I have to say again, I'm not sure what that would look like. I seek to understand. I seek to get a picture for why we're here, what life is about, where the universe came from, where the world came from, where life is going, all those sorts of questions. And experience, well, of course, I have experience of life, but I don't know what it would mean to say that experience is what religion gives you.
Well, I don't mean religion per se. I mean just like as an individual, of course, we will experience life all the time. We have different thoughts and ideas, and when we look inside ourselves, we can see how the thought process and the process of ideas and conceptuality actually work. But maybe those things internally aren't good enough for like grasping what maybe life is, and like I say again, for actually experiencing maybe accurately what it is.
I have nothing to say.
Gentlemen, thank you for showing up tonight. It was a pleasure listening to you at this point. I have a lot of things I have to say, but of course I want to get succinct on it. A thought I had based on an idea, the materialization from pre-existence into existence, then concluding with post-existence. One might assert a lack of definitive strength regarding post-existence as the absolute final end. I just want to touch on the notion of what appears to be emerging from non-existence. And I understand that there's science saying that things have happened, and I'm really not in either one of your corners, I feel. But I feel like this is substantial for me.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, the question is, I'm trying to generate some feedback, because I think maybe we could humble down and say, hey, well, we are somewhat in the unknown, based on linguistics, and we're somehow trapped in this sense of the unknown. I mean, you may feel, I know you're science-based, I know you're somewhat religious-based, but this merging out of non-existence into existence and then back into post-existence, do you see a pattern there, a 0-1-0 pattern?
And do you want Dinesh or Christopher to answer that?
And then row 4 would indicate, if you filled out that pattern, I would suggest a 1. Now just tell me what your general idea of that is, your sense of that, not necessarily taking it to verbatim.
I think we should take that as a statement. I move we take that as a statement.
That's fine.
I don't know if it's unchristian to know
Next.
question. Okay, let's move on.
Another.